All right, all right, all right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am James Oliver Jr., co-founder and CEO of Kabila, co-founder matching app and global community of tech startup, badass tech startup founders, doing our thing over here. And we do our regularly scheduled Kabila conversations to help you be better founders, better humans. Today is no exception. We have a really great guest for you talking about what is a venture studio and why the heck you need to care, how it can help you. I am going to so while I'm doing this in the comments, if you could just go ahead and start dropping where you're coming in from. If you could go ahead and share it on your social media channels, tag some friends if you're on LinkedIn or YouTube or Twitter, wherever you're watching, let some folks know what we're doing here. So I'm going to read a quick bio, and then I'm going to bring up my buddy Brian here. So sorry about this, Brian. We got this housekeeping, but we got to do it. So Brian Zwerner is president and founder of W3 Studio, a nonprofit venture studio to help diverse founders in Atlanta build startups in Web3. W3 Studio partners with corporations and provides grants to startups to fund the launch of their first products. Zwerner is also a VC and a founder at Beyond the Game Network, a venture group of athletes that invest in Series to Seed B consumer startups in sports, media, Web3, and fitness. He also worked as he was previously founder of Sportal, a startup in the sports industry, managed the growth of Aquina, maybe it's Aquina, I'm sorry about that, Aquina Health through a Series A capital raise. He invested in or held senior roles with several companies and funds. Previously, he spent 20 years in investment banking roles in the United States and abroad. What's up, B?
That was great. All right. Sounded good. I appreciate that. Glad to be
Yeah,
here.
well, I just copied it and pasted it from your LinkedIn profile, so I made it super easy for me. I appreciate it.
Fabulous.
All right, so we got who's coming in already? Jamie Bailey coming in from Jacksonville. What's going on, man? I heard the bad news in Jacksonville. Jeez. Hope you all doing okay down there, Jamie. But yeah, if you're listening, drop in the comments. Let us know where you're coming in from. This is going to be conversational. If you have questions, drop them in the comments here, and we will do our best to get to all of them. In the meantime, we only have you for 30 minutes, Brian, and this time usually zooms right by. So if you're cool, let's get right into it. All right.
Let's do it.
All right, man. So, hey, the basics, like what is a venture studio?
So a venture studio is kind of a different version of an accelerator. In a venture studio, you typically are working together with a founder. That founder may come in with the idea, or the studio sometimes has ideas that it wants to work on. And you're going to work together at the very earliest of stages. Typically, idea on a napkin, something written up on a whiteboard, something in your head maybe, and you're going to try to get these businesses launched using the studio's resources and the founder's guidance and get these things launched from scratch together in a partnership. That's a venture studio, as opposed to, say, an accelerator, where typically they're looking to accelerate something that's already rocking and rolling a little bit. I know you went through Techstars. Techstars is more of a traditional accelerator. They're looking for you to have your idea, maybe have a little bit of your team put together, maybe even have a little bit of a product or customers or even some revenue before you start. And they're looking for that fire to be burning a little bit, and then they're going to throw some gasoline on it. In a venture studio, typically you're starting right at that earliest of stages. That's the big difference.
Okay, that's cool, man. So we got some folks coming in from Colorado Springs. What's going on, Alexandria? Going on in Oye, what's going on in Atlanta? Yo, man, you need to hit me up because we need to get the kids together. I mean, knock it off. My kids keep asking about where are we going over there. Text me. Sorry, I digress. All right, no, that's great. And I thought this was important, Brian, because I'm seeing venture studios more and more on social media, and I feel like a lot of people don't really know what a venture studio is. So I appreciate you explaining that. So what inspired you to start W3?
Yeah, so we call it just We Studio, but we use the W3 because we're involved in that Web3 world. So we try to be hip, James. Say it like the kids would. We Studio. But yeah, I was inspired to start We Studio. Did I get you? I lost you. That's it.
Oh man. No,
No,
man.
so We Studio got started. Look, I spent the last 5 years as a venture investor here in Atlanta with Beyond the Game Network, working with a big crew of athletes and generally early stage founders here in Atlanta and around the country, even a few outside of the U.S. And as I worked with founders here in Atlanta, especially diverse founders, we saw a big problem where most diverse founders in Atlanta are not coming out of the traditional place that founders in, say, Silicon Valley might. They probably didn't go to Stanford or Cal Berkeley or Harvard. They probably didn't get their first job out of college at Facebook or Google or Apple. People like that come from those kind of backgrounds, they're just funneled right into those pre-seed investors out in the valley. And frankly, they got a pretty easy time raising that first money. They might have some rich friends. They might have some rich former bosses. They're in the right places for that kind of thing. And that is just not the way the Atlanta tech ecosystem is built. We have an awesome tech ecosystem here in Atlanta. I'm proud to be a part of it. I'm excited by what it is. But that's not what we're looking like here. And for diverse founders here in Atlanta, we saw a big gap in getting that early money, the people to believe in you when there's no proof, when there's no customers, when there's no product built. We thought that a studio model was exactly the right model to help those diverse founders that we're seeing in Atlanta.
I love that, man. So see, so Oye says, thanks. He didn't know anything about venture studios until you just explained it. So which is
Appreciate
awesome.
that.
That's why we're here, Oye. Love that. And Jeanette coming in from Virginia. Listening, if you're listening out there, drop in the comments. Please let us know where you're coming from, and drop your questions in the comments as well. Who are some of the other players in the venture studio space here in Atlanta? Because I had a conversation about a week or two ago with a really significant player in the startup ecosystem here. Had a really successful exit, and he mentioned that he's been focusing his investments in the venture studio space. So I'm getting a sense that, I know that's anecdotal, that's an N of one, but are there a lot? It seems like this, and I got a buddy. Do you know Matt Burris? You know
Yes.
Matthew Burris?
Yeah. He does a lot of writing about venture studios, and he's starting his own
Yeah,
venture studio
yeah,
now.
exactly. Yeah, exactly
Mm-hmm.
right. Savvy Tinkers, I think might be the name of it. Hopefully I
Yep.
got that right. I apologize, Matt, if I got that wrong.
I
But
think
are
you
you seeing a
got it.
lot of are you seeing a lot of activity around venture studios here in Atlanta specifically?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think we're starting to see more and more of this. There are quite a few that have been successful on the national level, and that has inspired. And I think you got a lot of VCs who started their, venture journeys like me by being a founder. The fun part of being in a studio model as an investor is that I get to kind of help co-found and work on these projects at a really different level than I do when I'm just writing a venture check. I get to work with these founders at the earliest stages and help them to put these things together myself. And I get to take a more active role than I would as just writing a check as a venture investor. So
Mm-hmm.
we've seen a few pop up. The team at Atlanta Ventures, David Cummings and his group, who
Mm-hmm.
run the Atlanta Tech Village, they've got a studio or incubator style model that they've been running for several years, and a number of companies have come out of there. There's a studio called Rule One, like the first rule. They've been up and running. They do venture studios in B2B SaaS. There's a new one that just started with the former head of Techstars here in Atlanta called Neighborhood Studios that's
Is that David
working
Payne's
on
thing?
location businesses.
Is that David
So
Payne's
yeah,
thing?
there's quite a few.
That's David's thing, David Payne?
Yep, that's David's one. Yeah, and that's a
Yeah.
studio focused on kind of locally sourced businesses doing things in a location based. So yeah, there's quite a few here now in Atlanta, and it's become a more popular model around the country as there've been a couple of big studios that have been really, really
Mhm.
successful, and some huge companies that come out of venture studios around the country.
Okay. Yeah. Shout out to Atlanta Tech Village. My co-founder and I, Kayla, we co-work out of ATV, and we're excited to be there. Who's this? Beverly saying, "Oh my God, thank you, so welcome, Beverly." Again, drop in the comments. Let us know where you're coming in from, everybody. Please share this with your friends and followers on social media. And if you have a question, I got questions for Brian, but I'm more interested in hearing you guys' questions. So feel free to ask a question, and I'll put it up, and we can get it to Brian in the interim. Here's a question for you, Brian. What are the pros and cons of venture studios for founders?
Yeah. So the pros are venture studios will come in usually earlier than anybody else. They're typically working with founders who are either in an entrepreneur in residence type of role, where a founder comes in with a general idea of a market they want to go after, but really not their solution figured out. Or there may even be the studios are often generating ideas themselves amongst their own team, finding founders to help run a business in an idea or area that they want to, and partnering in that way. But earliest of possible involvement, typically with reasonably large chunks of cash. They're typically coming in with enough money to get your product live and find your customers. Our studio, We Studios, targets at least $200,000 in funding for the founders that come into our program. We think that's enough to, build your first product, find a couple customers, figure some things out, be able to pivot a little bit on the product and still have cash left over. But some studios, will fund even kind of all the way through seed and sometimes even into the Series A. It might even be $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, so that you take fundraising off the table for the founder in those earliest days when it's so difficult. You just focus on
Yeah.
building product and getting it out. So those are the big benefits. Look, what are the drawbacks? Often, because the studios are coming in with significant capital in very early days, the effective valuation is going to be pretty low, leaving the founder giving up more equity. Some studios can take as much as 5, 10, 20% of the company value because they're coming in with a lot of cash really early and a lot of resources. At We Studio, we are working to get ourselves into a position. We are a nonprofit. It's a 501c3 nonprofit organization. It's purely mission driven. Our
Okay.
goal is to raise enough funding to be able to do all of our funding for our founders with grant cash. We don't have that yet. We're still working on it. We've only been around about a year now. But once we're fully operational, that's our goal. Really mission driven, partnering with
$20,000 in
corporations.
grants.
$200,000 in grant per founding team is our goal. Look, we need to do that. We need about $1 million in annual operating budget. That would allow us to work with 4 to 5 founding teams a year. And that's what we're driving towards at We Studio. But that most of the studios are doing things as equity and are going to be taking somewhere between 5 and 20% of the company.
So you guys won't take any equity. You give $200,000
That's our
grant. Taking.
goal. That's our goal. Our goal is to look. This is a nonprofit. Nobody's getting rich off of this except the
No,
founders. That's the
that's
goal.
that's incredible. So some questions are piling up here. I want to get into these, but I do
Yeah.
have some. I got some questions about that. That's amazing, bro. You're doing God's work out here. Um, so so, so Alex wants to know what you're looking for in founders. I would piggyback on that and say, like, how are you finding founders? First, what are you looking for, and then how do you find them?
Yeah, so most studios are going to have some type of a focus area that they get involved in. Neighborhood studios that we talked about here in Atlanta, they're focused on local based businesses. Rule One studios focus on B2B SaaS. At We Studio, our focus is on diverse founders. So we only work with founders that are Black, Latinx, or women. So founding teams got to be led with Black, Latinx, or women founders. And we're looking for founders that are building in what we define as emerging technology. Anything from kind of the Web3, crypto, and blockchain space to AR, VR, metaverse, and gaming, and maybe a little bit of AI technology. So, like most studios out there, we have a specific focus area where our team, our group, our board of directors, our founding team has a lot of expertise, and you're going to see that in that. Beyond that kind of basic starting point, what we're looking for at We Studio, we kind of define a couple of other things with the founders. We're looking for founders that know how to win, that have a track record of winning, that understand how hard it is. I know you know this, but how hard it is to build a startup from scratch, how many challenges and obstacles life is going to throw at you,
I mean,
and how
and it's
long you got to stick with the sucker.
yeah, and if you're working with women and BIPOC founders, those challenges are even harder for
For sure.
us. Um,
So we
so
want
yes,
founders that know how to win. At Beyond the Game Network on my venture side, I work with a whole bunch of 38 former pro athletes, mostly NFL players. I always like to say that athletes make amazing startup founders, but the same thing goes through if you played a musical instrument at a high level, were singing or acting or dancing, or involved in anything where you had to show serious commitment over a long period of time and stay focused. We look for founders. I love the way one of our team members defined it as a bias to action. With whatever resources you've got, show us, in the football terms, show us that you can move the ball down the field, that you can push the boulder up the hill. Whatever that means, whatever resources you have available to you, show us that you can make progress. Show us that you're serious enough about this. And even if you can't build a website or launch the app yourself, show us what you can do to advance the mission of your business before somebody throws some cash in there. Just show us how serious you are.
I mean, so and what are you looking at from their background to prove? Because people can say anything, right?
Hey,
Where are
look,
you
we're going to
looking
dig in on that point, right? I want to see what you've done. Have you spun up a landing page?
do
Have
you have
you
a landing page, for crying
yeah,
out
do you have a
loud?
social media channel? Have you met other people in your industry that you're trying to break into? Have you written out a business plan or some type of a pitch deck?
Wait,
Have you
people still doing business plans?
all right, I don't need like a 20-page plan from my college days, but I want to see something. So look, whatever that means for you, we want to see that you're trying. We get that not everybody is technical founders, not everybody's going to be able to launch an app all by themselves in a weekend, but make sure you can show us what you can do. So we're looking for that. And then we're
Yeah.
looking for people that are serious about the area that they're building in.
Mhm.
We always worried when we launched this. We talked about the emerging tech areas that we invest in at We Studio. We don't want tourists, man. We don't want somebody that's like, hey, I'll throw a blockchain in here if it's going to get me 200 grand. Well, that's not going to work. We want people that are serious about it. We want to see that you are integrated into the communities that you're trying to disrupt, that you know the products, that you know the
Yeah.
players, that you've tried the products, that you're serious about that in a way that gives you an edge, that's going to give you some learned experiences that you can draw on to build a better product, to build a better solution.
I love that word tourist. Because for us at Kabila, we're about to start doing some in-person co-founder matching events here in Atlanta, and we don't want tourists, right? We only want people who have experienced the pain of needing a co-founder, couldn't find one, or who are serious about finding a co-founder. We don't want people just coming looking around. It's going to make for a terrible experience for everybody. So I love the word tourist. So here's one from Oye. He likes this, Brian. This is incredible for
Thank you.
founders. 100%. Why are we doing that? So people can find you. You're mostly his. Here we go. Find you here, W3 Studios, right?
Yep, that's our
Uh,
website. I'm, active on LinkedIn, Twitter, anywhere you need to go,
yeah.
you can find me.
Here's his LinkedIn. I knew you were going to say LinkedIn. I see you over there all the time.
LinkedIn, I'm most active on. That's the easiest way to
Yes.
hit me up.
You can find Kabila on X, Twitter, whatever the hell that is now, and Threads, which is where I'm mostly hanging out these days. You can also find me on Threads at TrepDad. So let's go back to these questions. So you touched on this a little bit, the ownership structure from the studio side, 5, 10, 15, 20%. But how much equity does the founder typically get in a studio model?
Yeah, so the founding team is going to get the rest. So, 80% plus is going to be for the founding team. It's going to be set up, traditionally as the same thing. It's going to be a separate company. Sometimes we see things that look more like an incubator where you might do the early operations of the company within the legal structure of the studio or the venture company that's backing it. And then you'd spin that out as its own, C Corp, its own Delaware C Corp. But the founder should end up with that. Look, I've seen some things that are more incubated structures where the founder ends up owning a lot less. And I mean like less than 50%.
Well, that's what I
Those
was
are
thinking you
very
were going
different
to.
structures.
I was thinking you were going to say that. Yeah. So, but in
I've
your
seen
case,
that, but in those structures, then the studio or incubator is going to carry that for the first couple years, where you're not going to get spun out as your own company until you're at the Series A or later. You might get a couple $1 million in funding over a multi-year period. And then when the company spins out, the founder might own only 10, 20, 50% of the company, 20, 30, 50%, something like that.
Mhm.
I've seen models like that before. That's not the model we use, but I have seen models like that before. Everyone's
Okay.
different. Some of them are
Mhm.
pretty open about it on their website. Some of them talk about it openly on podcasts. Some of them keep their individual structures very customized and a bit private. You gotta do your homework on the different studio models and understand what their business model is.
Okay, that's a great question, Alexandra. So, given that you guys are a nonprofit, folks, keep the comments coming, please. Please share this, tag friends on social media. That'll be a big help for us. Um, Given your structure with the 501c3, and there's no equity ownership, how is that for positively or negatively impacting your ability to raise money for the studio?
So, I mean, our studio is a nonprofit, so we are looking for corporate donations. Our first corporate donor, someone you know very well, it was the TechStars Foundation, the charitable foundation of the TechStars Accelerator
Mhm.
Program.
Yeah, well, my
We're very
my foundation went through my Parentpreneur Foundation went through TechStars Foundation Accelerator
perfect.
program,
So
so I'm
you
very
are in the
familiar with
same
that.
boat with us there. That was our first corporate donor. We're a big fan of TechStars. Shout out TechStars always.
Who sponsored
Yeah,
you over
so
there? Was that David or Brad
David
sponsored you
Cohen.
over there?
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely. That's who we worked
David's a
with.
good
But
friend.
I do a
Okay.
lot of work with the Sports Tech Accelerator out of Indianapolis, Jordan Flegel, and that's kind of who got me started with David. But
Okay.
also work with Tim Dorr here and the team in Atlanta pretty actively as well. So yeah,
Awesome. Awesome.
we're looking for corporate donors. We also have embracing some of the Web3 ethos. We have a digital membership pass that individuals can buy that costs $200. That gives you access to our community. All the funds from that digital membership pass, which is actually minted as an NFT, are go into the nonprofit. Nobody's getting paid off of this. Everything right now, 100% volunteer organization.
Yeah.
Myself and the other board members, nobody's taking a dime out of this. All this money goes to minimal expenses of running the business, and
Yeah.
maximally to fund this grant program and fund programs for founders.
Yeah.
But this is look,
Okay.
this is a mission-driven business. This is a nonprofit. It's a mission-driven business. This is not about making rich people richer, making
Yeah.
money for limited partners or anything like that.
Right.
No, look,
Okay.
we may invest in these companies when they emerge from the studio as seed-funded companies. There's a lot of venture people involved. Hopefully, that'll make raising capital easier, but there's no guarantees of that in
Awesome.
either direction.
That sounds good. All right. So Beverly has a question here. Is there a studio for durable medical equipment I can see if I'm eligible for? She's located in Atlanta.
I haven't heard of anything like that, Beverly. I'm sorry. I don't know of anybody that's doing that type of thing in the medical or healthcare space. I do know that, gosh, there's somebody who is a new sponsor of the Venture Atlanta conference that is that is doing some type of venture or incubator program or accelerator for the medical space. It's a large medical company. Oh goodness, I'm trying to find it real quick, but we'll try to
Yeah, that's
figure
all
it
right.
out.
So
But yeah, there's definitely somebody who is building out a new med tech related funding source here in Atlanta. I don't know if they're doing medical equipment or just medical tech companies.
yeah, Beverly, I think you should connect with Brian here. This is Brian Zwerner on LinkedIn. Send him a connection request and just I would DM him once he accepts that. Send him a note too to let him know that you met him here. So he accepts your requests. He's probably way nicer than me. I'm a LinkedIn snob. I don't just accept everybody's LinkedIn. But when he accepts your request, then you could follow up with him, and because he will probably remember as soon as we get off this call exactly who that person or organization is that might be helpful for you. So that is awesome. Let's see what else. So Oye, what about funding companies that are service based, builds enterprise custom applications instead of software product development?
Yeah, so very few service-based businesses would be considered, kind of venture scalable. Whether we're a venture firm or a venture studio, we are still looking to work with people that are building businesses that have venture scale. So venture scale basically means you're building something that, is going to be tech business or tech enabled in some way, that is going to give the opportunity for the business to see, explosive growth without huge growth in headcount, that's going to give the kind of long-term upside of businesses that can do tens of millions or hopefully even hundreds of millions of annual revenue, and have a venture scale type of exit. I don't know of any studios that are doing things that are services based that are going to kind of be more what we call like a lifestyle business, or cash flowing kind of businesses as opposed to venture growth type. So I'm not aware that that exists. If I find about anything, I'll let you know.
Okay. All right. So right before he started answering his question there, he said what he's hearing is unreal. It's amazing. Happy you joined today's
Thank
call.
you.
We're happy you joined as well, Oye. Happy to glad to put this together. And Beverly says, "Thank you. You're so welcome, Beverly. I can't wait to hear when you follow up with her who that is, and when she follows up, what happens. I'd love to hear that. All right. So I got another question for you. Again, folks, we have 5 more minutes left here. Feel free to drop your questions in the comments. Please share this out on social media. So, what questions should founders be asking a venture studio before they join?
Yeah, so it's important to understand, first and foremost, are these studios looking for you, the founder, to come in with an idea, or are they going to work with you to develop and research and figure out the idea? There's two different, different ways that people approach that. So that's the first thing to understand. Then you want to understand what type of capital injection they're going to give and what equity ownership they're looking for and how the structure of that's going to be done on the other side. And then you want to understand the resources. Our studio is set up with a team of 10 people, our board of directors and our selection team, the team that works with the founders. And, all of them are VCs or multi-time startup founders. And we're looking to be able to help anybody that comes into our program fill in whatever gaps they may be missing, whether that's on the technology development side, the marketing or go-to-market side, HR, finance, operations, partnerships, biz dev. We've got the resources to do that. And so that's the thing you want to be asking these studios is, what resources do they have? What are they going to bring to bear? And how are they going to help your startup to get through that very, very hard 0 to 1 phase? Get your product built, find your first customers. And then what success do they have at helping with capital raising? Because eventually you're going to exit the studio and you're going to need to find new investors who can take you to the next height. We do that at We Studio by having a team of 10 people who have all either invested or raised money before. So we've got hundreds of venture partners and friends and people that we've worked with. But that's another key thing to understand is how do founders exit the studio? How does a startup kind of find its own leg, fly out the nest, whatever analogy you like to say. So those are the areas I'd be focused on if I were a founder talking to a studio.
That's so good. That makes a lot of sense. And like you said, you have a venture fund, so there's an automatic. Look, obviously you voted to put them in. You like them. You're working closely with them if you believe in it and it fits your ethos. There you go.
It's going to be a pretty easy decision if it fits with what we do at Beyond the Game. That's going to be pretty easy.
Easy. That'll be an easy yes. Alexandra says this rocks. So good to see you, Alexandra. I appreciate you. All right. So here's another question I had, but I think you already answered this. What are the criteria for founders to get in? But basically, you just want people who can move the ball down the field, sounds like.
Yeah, we're looking for proven winners. We're looking for people that have shown, a serious interest in the idea that they're building, that have, really researched and thought it through, and come in with a good concept of what they're trying to bake, and people that are, that are connected in their industry that they're trying to go after and disrupt, that have lived it, preferably have solving their own problem, and have real, learned expertise in that area. That's what we're looking for. And then obviously it has to meet our core criteria. Black, Latinx, or women building in Atlanta. We are serious about Atlanta. We believe in this ecosystem here. We want people that are here in Atlanta. We will selectively talk to people who are based outside Atlanta if we believe you will really commit to being here long term. We don't want you to show up here for 9 months, take the money and run and go to another city. We think Atlanta is an amazing place to build a tech startup. And we think all the resources are here to be very successful. We've seen huge companies come through this tech ecosystem already, and we want to be a part of that. We want to create, more successful tech founders here in Atlanta, and we want them to be coming from more diverse backgrounds.
Awesome. So what's next for W3 Studio?
Well, we are working to get our first founder live. We haven't got all of the funding we need for the grant program, so we're actually starting with our first founder in a more traditional equity investment. So we are currently in the market working with a founder to raise out that first $200,000 in funding as an equity investment. Hopefully we'll be in position to launch our grant program next year. We're always talking to big companies who have a proven track record of corporate donations or foundations that support diverse entrepreneurs. If you're a corporate founder, a corporation out there that has a program that supports diverse founders, we want to talk to you at We Studio. And if you're here in Atlanta and you're interested in what we're doing, we host live events. We've got a big Web3 Atlanta Expo coming up here on September 28th as part of the InnovateL, right after the Venture Atlanta conference wraps on September 28th. So that'll be a great place to see all the amazing teams that are building. We'll have about 4 or 5 founders pitching in a pitch event with a cash prize, an additional dozen founders at the expo. That event's being hosted by us at We Studio, plus 3 other amazing groups in Atlanta, the Atlanta Blockchain Center, 404 DAO, and Solidity ATL, to really show the breadth and strength of the Web3 community here in Atlanta. So that's the next place to see us in person.
All right. Well, this was awesome. Thanks everybody for coming through. I appreciate you. Brian, can you hang on for 2 seconds while I roll this outro and shut it down?
100%. Thank you, James. It's been great to talk to you and the audience today. Thank you to everybody that jumped in the comments. It's been great to connect with you.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for coming through. Really appreciate it. Hopefully this was helpful for you all. Again, please feel free to share this out with your friends on social media. Please tag a friend. And we have some more good conversations coming up here. It looks like Dom from TechCrunch. Do you know Dom from TechCrunch, Brian?
I don't think so.
Oh, Dom, she's been killing it in
Oh
terms
yes,
of
of course. Yes, yes, yes.
yeah.
Yep,
She just shot me
she
a
covers
DM.
diversity in tech and a variety of other areas.
Yeah,
Yep.
she's killing it. Yeah, she just sent my
Yep.
DMs on Twitter about coming on my podcast.
Fabulous.
So super excited about that.
She's
All right,
great.
everybody,
Yep.
stand by. Let me get this video outro up, and we'll see you next time, everybody. Later.